wasn't so long ago that there was a story that came out about Tim Steidten, and it was suggesting that he was going to go and look at the Belgian league because he felt that was a good place to unearth talent. He thought there was good value in the league, and I think maybe a lot of the other markets were quite saturated with scouts, and I think he thought that there was some uncovered gems, let's put it that way, over there. Now, I sort of dismissed it because you hear a lot of these stories, particularly around transfer time. Lots of people make up a lot of different stuff. And let's be perfectly frank here, Tim Steidten doesn't speak a lot. I mean, he's gone over to Sky Sports in Germany, done a couple of interviews there. But in terms of actually information, there's not a lot there. He keeps himself to himself. So I don't know if I dismissed it. It was sort of, almost put to one side and sort of classed as one to watch. Then we got linked with Ibrahim Osman. And I thought that was a really interesting one because it wasn't the obvious link. It wasn't a newspaper seller, It wasn't going to necessarily get people clicking on articles because the player was unknown. Funny enough, there's an article today about West Ham and about Paulo Dybala, which is far more clickable. But this wasn't that. This was an unknown Ghanaian who was plying his trade over in Belgium, and it was a case of, it wasn't a particularly juicy story. However, it turned out to be true. Sometimes 2 and 2 does equal 4. And I just thought then, okay, well, maybe there is something to these reports that we are, and Tim Steidten in particular, is looking at the Belgian league. Now, we know he's brought his brother over. We know he's brought over the data analyst fella over from the Bundesliga as well. So when I've started seeing these couple of reports over the last couple of days that we're interested in young players from Belgium, I've got to say, it perked my interest. I sort of stood up and thought, oh, okay. Now, I've got to be honest with you. Me and transfer rumours are not particularly getting on at the moment, which is why I've not been doing many videos on them. I find a lot of them hard to believe because I think the club is in a state of flux. I don't know who's going to be in charge next season, and I'm certainly not going to pretend to you that I know who's going to be in charge next season. And I think, as I mentioned in yesterday's video, there's sort of any number of possibilities are there. And I think if David Moyes stays on, the players that we end up getting could be very, very different to if he doesn't stay on. So I think if Moyes goes, Tim Steidten's probably going to have a hand in appointing a new manager and will probably completely have control of transfers. However, what is clear is we have to buy somebody. The squad is thin as it is, and you could make an argument that even next season we're definitely going to lose Cresswell. We're probably going to lose Johnson. Probably going to lose Mbama. You could make a case for a couple of others as well. Is Ogbonna going to carry on for another season? You could make the case that next season we need another rebuild. We're already 2 players down, and you could suggest that maybe 5 players are leaving. So we could need as many as 7 players next season. And that's before we've talked about other clubs coming in and poaching, players like Lucas Paqueta, for instance. So we're going to need to buy these players, so I think it's safe to assume we're scouting them at the moment. So we've been linked with this guy, Mandela Keita. And he's from Antwerp, and he seems to be a very, very good player. Now, apparently Manchester City are interested as well. How much truth is in there? I don't know. I haven't got a clue. But I did find it very, very interesting that we might be interested in him. And there's this whole thing going on with Calvin Phillips at the moment, which is the board didn't, as I understand it, the board did not want Calvin Phillips. That wasn't one of the suggestions that was put forward. Moyes really pushed for it. Again, it's a believable story, isn't it? We'll never know the true facts, but it is a believable story. So I don't think there's going to be, unless his form improves drastically, I don't think there's going to be an awful lot of desire from within the club to try and push through this Calvin Phillips transfer, to make it into a permanent one, basically. So Mandela Keita, yes, do I know the player? Not at all, but I didn't know about Ibrahim Osman, but we definitely bid for him. We definitely put in a bid for this player. We had our first bid rejected, then all the stuff happened with the agents and that sort of thing. So I think this is believable. And he's not the only one either, because you've got this lad, Archie Brown, who's at Gent. Now, I think the interesting thing with Archie Brown is he ticks 2 boxes, if you want, because not only is he plying his trade in Belgium at Gent, but he's also English. So he came through Derby County's academy. And then he went to a Swiss club whose name escapes me at the moment, went over there, did really, really well, then Gent bought him. Now, apparently there's a number of clubs that are interested in this player, but he would tick boxes. Look, we've got a bit of an issue on our hands with regards to homegrown players, particularly if, as expected, Ben Johnson don't look like he's going to sign a new deal. I don't think it's irretrievable with Johnson. I do think if Moyes goes and a new manager comes in and he can guarantee Johnson that he's going to get a fair chance and the board can give him a contract. I know there's three ifs there, but it's not definite that he goes. But at the moment, you'd have to say he's more likely to go than stay. If he goes, if Cresswell goes, Mubama goes, we would need to get some homegrown players to fill those quotas. We really, really will. And Archie Brown would definitely satisfy that need. We're also linked with another left back, actually, Leif Davis. Now, he was at Ipswich doing much better than anybody expected him to this season, actually. He's a sort of dead ball specialist as well. We'd obviously not get Leif Davis and Archie Brown at the same time. That wouldn't happen. But he's someone else that's in the news, and he's a name that's been put around. What I do want to do is just talk about that Paulo Dybala rumour. I wouldn't normally discuss it, but it's come from Fabrizio Romano. So he doesn't. Not only does he not make things up, he doesn't need to make things up. He's an incredibly popular journalist. He's probably making a ton of money at the moment. Everybody wants to pay him to be on there, to write for their magazine or be on their podcast or any number of those things. And if all the big media companies want to sort of get him on to do a little segment. So look, he doesn't need to make anything up, and his reputation is built on accurate information, and he really has built up his reputation very, very impressively. So when he says about Paulo Dybala, now the suggestion is, and the article that I read suggested that if Lucas Paqueta goes to Man City, West Ham could look at this player as a replacement. He's in good form, actually, really, really good form. I did a little search. I know who he is, didn't have to search who he was, but obviously he's at Roma at the moment. I don't know what his recent form was like. Apparently, it's very, very good. He scored a really good free kick at the weekend, actually, won 4-1 at Monza. Good player, really, really good player. He's in his 30s now, but I think the interesting thing is he's got a €12 million release clause. Not exactly. Look, I think he's a good player, and I've always said West Ham are not that good that we can turn down the opportunity to sign excellent players. I think I'd be a little bit disappointed if we lost Paqueta and that was the only thing we did, because he's at 30 years of age. He's probably the wrong age profile, but he's not over the hill. A 30-year-old is still a very, very good player for 2 or 3 seasons. So what it was interesting, I don't know if you heard this yesterday, there was a lot of rumours coming out that because he's gone back into the Brazilian squad, Paqueta, that I think it might have even been one of the coaches, possibly even the head coach, had said during the press conference that he was bringing Lucas Paqueta back in, and he was doing so with confidence because charges have been dropped. Well, they haven't. That wasn't true. I don't know why he would have said it. Maybe he just wanted to. Actually, probably do. He was probably giving the player some confidence by pretty much saying, "I back you. I don't believe these allegations. You're my player. You're in my squad." It was man management wise, it was probably a smart thing to do, but it wasn't accurate news. It wasn't actually the case at all. He's still under investigation by the FA. I mean, I think it's pretty safe to assume if he does get cleared, then he will be off to Man City. And do you know what? I look at Man City, and they're a different team when De Bruyne is in. Now, I know Foden's playing very, very well at the moment, but he's a different player. And I can absolutely see when De Bruyne is not around that Paqueta plays in that team. I can absolutely see it. So £80 million, even if they don't take him, someone else will. So I think it's safe to assume that he will be gone if he gets cleared. And will it drag out for longer? I don't know. It's going to be really, really interesting to see. But anyway, there you go. Those I wasn't going to do any transfer rumours for a while because, as I say, I don't overly believe them, but I do sort of believe every single one of these has its merits, at least in terms of transfer targets. The last one, Dybala, I don't know. I probably wouldn't have paid any attention unless Fabrizio Romano had said it.